Ladies and gentlemen, it is officially trade season. Obviously, we had the Toffoli trade, I think a couple of weeks ago now, but then things kind of really died down. But now it seems things are really starting to pick back up as we get closer and closer to the deadline. We're now 6 days away. I'm getting really excited. The trade deadline every single year is definitely one of my favorite times of the year, especially when it comes to creating content. I love talking about trades, so I'm really excited to cover all the deals that go down for you guys over the next week. So subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Thanks to the Colorado Avalanche, we have a couple of trades to talk about in this video, one being a lot more significant than the other. We'll start with the one that actually just happened because it's definitely the smaller of the two trades. The Avalanche and the Minnesota Wild swap depth forwards. You have Nico Sturm going to the Colorado Avalanche in a 1-for-1 deal straight up for Tyson Jost. Definitely an interesting trade here. It kind of came out of nowhere. There were no reports that the Avalanche and the Wild were working on anything. Tyson Jost's name or Nico Sturm's name weren't really out there in terms of trade rumors leading up to this deal. It's a pretty simple trade to break down. First off, we'll look at it from the point of view of the Minnesota Wild. I think they're getting the lesser player here of the two in Tyson Jost. However, it's not really by much, and Tyson Jost is younger than Nico Sturm, being 24 years old. Obviously, Tyson Jost was a former 10th overall pick by the Avs in 2016. I think at this point, it's safe to say he's never going to develop into the player the Avs thought they were getting when they selected Jost, but that's definitely not to say Tyson Jost isn't a useful NHLer. At this point, he's basically a bottom six defense-only centerman, doesn't drive a whole lot of play offensively at all, doesn't put up a whole lot of points. That's just 14 in 59 games. His career high is only 26. This deal really just screams to me change of scenery, and I feel like the only real intriguing thing here for the Minnesota Wild is, again, that Tyson Jost is younger than Nico Sturm. He's 24 and was a 10th overall pick once upon a time. So that's Tyson Jost. Now let's talk about the Avs getting Nico Sturm here. Like I said from the get-go, I feel like Nico Sturm is the better of the two players at this point. He is older, 26 years old, so he's 2 years older than Jost. Last year was actually Nico Sturm's first full season in the NHL. He had 11 goals in 50 games for the Minnesota Wild, so a little bit above a 15-goal pace there for Nico Sturm, which definitely isn't bad in your rookie season. This year he's taken a bit of a step back in terms of his goal production, but not by much. He still has 9 in 53 games. The most intriguing thing for the Avalanche about Nico Sturm, I feel like, definitely has to be his really good underlying numbers, both offensively and defensively. He has been a very impactful bottom six two-way forward for the Wild over the past 2 seasons, and the Avalanche have a tendency to take analytical darlings and just get the most out of them and really blossom them into stars. Obviously, Devin Tays, it happened with Valeri Nichushkin, obviously became such a big part of the Avalanche team. So who knows, maybe we see something like that happen here with Nico Sturm. Probably not to that extent, of course, but definitely an intriguing player. So those are my thoughts on the deal and on the two players. On the surface, it's really not a deal you're going to look at and say it's a needle mover for either team. Obviously, both of these teams view themselves as contenders. It's not a scenario where one team is selling off, a veteran win-now asset for future assets. Both of these teams probably feel like they're getting a decent player here, and again, I feel like it's really just a change of scenery trade. So those are my thoughts on the Tyson Jost for Nico Sturm deal. Now let's shift focus to the bigger deal that actually took place yesterday, and for whatever reason, I just didn't see it yesterday. I guess I wasn't on Twitter enough, but I first saw this deal when I woke up and checked Twitter this morning. Wasn't going to make a video on this deal originally just because I thought it was going to be too late. Like I said, when I originally saw the deal this morning, at that point, it had been out there for like 16 hours, but since the Avs made another trade, I figured I'd just package the two deals together in this video. So the trade was the Colorado Avalanche acquired defenseman Josh Manson from the Anaheim Ducks. Anaheim retained 50% of Manson's salary. He's going to be a UFA at the end of the season in exchange for a 2023 second-round pick and unsigned prospect Drew Helleson, who was a second-round pick by the Avs in 2019. He's having a really good season actually for Boston College in the NCAA. It's kind of funny actually, in the Ask Me Anything video that I uploaded yesterday, there was a question about Hampus Lindholm and Josh Manson and if I think they're going to be traded and what I think a return could look like for those players, and then just a couple hours after I made that video public, the Manson trade happened. So I guess I'll first talk about this deal from the point of view of the Anaheim Ducks. Obviously, it makes a whole lot of sense in my opinion to sell off some of your veteran assets who are going to be a UFA at the end of the season, because while the Anaheim Ducks, I guess you could say they're still in the playoff race a little bit, but I mean, it's pretty far-fetched at this point that they make it. So I think trading Josh Manson makes a whole lot of sense, and honestly, I think they get a pretty good return here. You get that 2023 second-round pick. It is the Colorado Avalanche own second-round pick. It's not a second-round pick they got from another team, so I'd imagine Colorado's probably still going to be a pretty darn good team in 2023, so it's most likely going to be a later second-round pick, maybe closer to a third-round pick, but still solid. And then basically you get another second-round pick asset because Drew Helleson was a second-round pick by the Avalanche in 2019, and like I said, he is having a really good season in the NCAA for Boston College. He's a right shot defenseman, 20 years old, has 25 points in 32 games. He has the most points by a defenseman on Boston College this season. Still unsigned, doesn't have his ELC or anything, but definitely a nice prospect to add to the Anaheim Ducks system. So overall, I think they got a pretty good return here for Josh Manson, and it definitely makes me wonder, are they going to take the same approach with Hampus Lindholm and try to trade him at the deadline? Because if they get a package this good for Manson, I can only imagine how good the package in return for Hampus Lindholm would be. So now let's talk about the deal from the point of view of the Colorado Avalanche. It is very clear at this point that the Colorado Avalanche are not messing around. I think it was reported by multiple insiders after this trade happened as well that the Avalanche are not done. They're still interested in the likes of Claude Giroux, so they're really going for it, and I think Josh Manson's going to be a nice addition to the team. He's played top 4 minutes for the Anaheim Ducks for years now. He's always put up decent two-way results. He's a very physical defenseman as well. I think he's third on the Ducks in hits this season behind Benoit and Delorier. He really rounds out the Avalanche top 4 nicely. You think about the top pairing, Devon Toews, Cale Makar, and then you get Gerard Manson. That's a fantastic top 4, and I mean, when Bowen Byram comes back, then you can have a bottom pairing of Bowen Byram and Eric Johnson. That very well may be the best decor in the entire league. So I like the addition of Manson. Did they overpay a little bit? Yeah, maybe, but when you're in a position the Avalanche are in, you can afford to overpay because you're trying to win a Stanley Cup. Their team is absolutely loaded, and they got better in this deal. I think it's a solid deal for both sides. Honestly, if I had to pick a winner, which I don't usually like doing when trades initially happen, I guess I would say the Anaheim Ducks, but I mean, if Colorado ends up winning a cup with Josh Manson, then you think they're going to care that they overpaid a little bit for him? Definitely not. And one other thing I did want to bring up that I saw on Twitter that I thought was pretty interesting. This came from Hockey Stats CZ Twitter account. It was in reference to Pierre LeBrun saying that he believes Colorado is still interested in Giroux even after making this deal. The Hockey Stats CZ Twitter account said the Avalanche are still interested in Claude Giroux from the Philadelphia Flyers. We wouldn't be even surprised if the deal is on the table already, but both teams are just waiting for Giroux to play his 1000th game for Philly on Thursday and waiting for Landeskog to go on the IR. So I thought that was pretty interesting and something to kind of make note of and keep in mind. But yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts on the Colorado Avalanche and the 2 trades that they have made over the past 24 hours. Man, I'm so excited for this trade deadline. I hope it's hectic. I hope there's a ton of trades, ton of significant trades. If you guys enjoyed this video and you're as excited as I am for the deadline, then be sure to leave it a like. That's the best way to show your support. Obviously, let me know down below in the comment section, how do you feel about both of these trades, especially if you were a fan of any of the teams involved. And yeah, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, you want to hear my thoughts on all the trades that happen over the next week, then be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.